Okay, let's get into this. Today, we're sharing a really unsettling account from one of our listeners. It's a story that takes us to a dark road in Thailand, right into the middle of a very mysterious, very scary encounter. And this isn't just some story someone made up. It's a first-hand experience from a listener named Kunat, and his friends were there too. It really left a deep mark on all of them.
Yeah, these kinds of experiences often do. They stick with you.
Definitely. So today I want to share this story, unpack what happened, and maybe understand a bit more about why it unfolded the way it did, especially, considering the local context.
Right. The cultural background is often key in these accounts.
So our story really starts years before the main event, on this specific road in Suphan, Buri province in Thailand. Maybe 7 or 8 years before Kunat had his encounter.
Okay.
There's this, local legend, you could say. A dark secret about the road. It involves a really tragic accident. Yeah, picture this. A young woman, she worked nearby, just finished her shift. She gets off the company bus. Her boyfriend's waiting for her right across the road. But she steps off the bus, and she just crosses without looking properly.
Oh, no.
And a pickup truck hits her right there in front of her boyfriend. It was horrific. Threw her body over 10 meters.
That's awful. And that kind of sudden violent event.
Exactly. And this backstory, this is something Kunat and his friends only found out about much later. From people living in the area, it wasn't something they knew at the time of their own experience.
And that's fascinating, isn't it? How often these past tragedies, these local stories, seem to, resonate or connect with later inexplicable events. That detail about the accident really sets a heavy foundation for everything that follows.
It really does.
It speaks to that idea found in many cultures that places can hold a kind of memory, especially of traumatic events, like the road itself hasn't forgotten.
Yeah, like an imprint left behind. So let's fast forward to the main story. We have Kunat, who's originally from Engthong province, not Suphan Buri. He's gone to this annual festival in Suphan Buri with 6 of his friends. They're all crammed into one pickup truck.
7 people in one pickup. Typical.
Right. So the festival ends. They're heading back home. It's late now, maybe around 11 p.m. Kunat is driving. He's going slowly, carefully.
Understandable.
Because the road is narrow. It's not well lit at all. Just these dim orange streetlights spaced really far apart. The kind. Rural road.
Very common. Creates long stretches of darkness.
Totally. And as they're driving, they come around this one particular curve. And Kunat notices 2 things. An old, kind of weathered wooden shrine by the road, and this huge monkey pod tree next to it.
Okay, landmarks.
Yeah, and he just gets this feeling. He said he instinctively felt it was scary, just looking at it.
A gut feeling.
Exactly. And then right as they're driving past this spot, this curve with the shrine and the tree, Kunat, he said, for some unknown reason, he decides to tell his friends the story.
The story of the woman who died there.
The very one. He just recounts it, not really thinking much of it. Like, a spooky story for the dark road,
Right. Just telling a story.
But that act, telling that specific story right there,
yeah.
It might have been, more significant than he realized.
It's like vocalizing the legend in the very place it happened. In many traditions, that's seen as, almost like an invitation. You're acknowledging the presence, the history, right where it occurred.
An invitation.
Wow.
And almost immediately after he tells the story, the whole feeling in the truck just changes. Kunat suddenly notices the road is completely empty, like eerily empty. No other cars, none coming towards them, none behind them, just them.
Isolated.
Totally isolated, surrounded by these big, dark rice paddies on both sides. Just empty fields and the occasional tree under those dim lights. And then he sees her.
The woman.
Yeah, his eyes just catch her. Standing in a dark patch by the side of the road, her head is bowed down. And at first, he says, he actually forgot the story he just told. The fear from the shrine was there, but the connection wasn't immediate.
Right, the initial sighting.
But then, the shock hits. The car is moving right. They're driving past her. But she starts walking right behind the truck. And she's keeping pace, getting closer.
Walking. Well, the car is moving.
Yeah. He panics, understandably. Slams the accelerator, tries to speed up, get away from her.
Right, flight response.
He puts some distance between them. There's this, split second of relief, maybe. But it just vanishes. Because after they've pulled ahead a bit, she suddenly starts running. Running incredibly fast. And she catches right back up to the truck. Easily.
That's impossible. Physics just goes out the window there.
Completely. And the terror in the truck, you could feel it. Kunat glances over at his friends. They're all just trembling. Heads down, staring at the floor. Nobody's saying a word.
Frozen in fear. Shared terror.
Absolute silence, except for the engine noise and the dim streetlights passing by, one after another. It seemed like forever. And Kuhnot's driving, thinking, where are the other cars? Why is this road still empty? He's scared, obviously, but where can he even stop? There's just rice fields everywhere, no houses, nothing.
No escape, no refuge.
He keeps glancing in the rearview mirror, terrified she's gonna jump into the back of the pickup truck.
A horrifying thought. That relentless pursuit. It's a theme you hear in these kinds of accounts. It breaks down your sense of reality.
Totally. So he thinks maybe she's gone from the rear view for a second. He can't see her. But then his eyes flick over to the left side mirror, the driver's side mirror. What he saw made him, well, he said he swore out loud in shock. The woman's body, her torso, face, was right there, pounding on the car door, banging on it.
Pounding on the door while they're moving.
Yes. Trying to get his friends to look up, to see her. He tried to shout, to warn them, but he said he was just frozen, couldn't get the words out, utterly paralyzed by fear.
I can't even imagine that level of terror.
Yeah.
Seeing something physically impossible happening right next to you.
He's struggling to keep control of the truck, himself, everything. And then he looks ahead, and he sees it again. The old wooden shrine. The giant monkey pod tree.
No.
Yes. The terrifying realization just washes over him. They're driving in a loop. They've somehow circled back to the exact same spot where it all started.
The nightmare restarting.
And the woman,
Yeah.
she's still chasing them. Same face, same actions, just like the first time. The whole sequence beginning again.
The whole other level of psychological horror. The feeling of being trapped.
Absolutely trapped. But in that moment, peak desperation, something clicks in Kuhnot's mind. He remembers something.
Where?
A prayer. He suddenly shouts to his friends, tells them, pray, everyone pray together. Specifically, the Itipiso mantra.
The Itipiso. A very common and powerful Buddhist chant in Thailand, often used for protection.
Exactly. So they all start chanting it loudly, desperately, all 7 of them together in the truck. And the effect was immediate. Yeah. As they prayed, the woman who had been running alongside, pounding on the door, she started to slow down. Then she just stopped. Stood perfectly still by the roadside, head bowed again, just like when they first saw her.
Wow. The chanting worked.
It seemed to, whether it was the prayer itself, the collective belief, the sound, something broke the cycle.
That's quite something. The belief in the power of such mantras is so strong. It's seen as a genuine form of spiritual defense. And here it seemingly manifested a real-world effect, neutralizing the entity maybe.
It certainly felt that way to them, and the relief you can only imagine. They finally broke free from that looping section of road.
Finally.
Suddenly things look normal again. Houses appeared, road signs, they were back in the ordinary world.
Back to reality.
Kuhnot, still shaking, drove each of his friends home one by one, but his night wasn't over. He got home, but he couldn't sleep a wink. The whole thing was just seared into his memory.
I bet. How could you sleep after that?
And he wasn't alone. All 7 of them, the friends, they immediately started calling each other that night. Do you see that? What happened? What was that? Trying to make sense of it?
Sharing the trauma, trying to process it.
Yeah, but they had no answers, just shared terror and confusion.
So a truly harrowing experience.
Yeah.
But it doesn't end there, does it?
No, not at all. The next morning, they talk again, and despite the absolute terror of the night before, this intense curiosity takes hold, maybe mixed with a need to prove it was real, or maybe just morbid fascination.
They wanted confirmation. Or perhaps to face the fear.
Something like that. They make this decision, which sounds crazy now, but they decide to go back that night to the same spot.
Oh no. They decided to test it.
They decided to test it. So that evening, they drive back towards the festival area, then turn onto that same road again, get there around 10 or 11 p.m., same time as before.
Deliberately going back into the lion's den, so to speak.
Pretty much. And this time, it was worse. Much worse.
How so?
They get to the curve, the old wooden shrine. She appears again. But this time, there's no slow walk, no gradual approach. Her face looks just as terrifying, but she immediately starts running at the truck, closing the distance even faster than before.
Instant aggression.
Yeah, she runs right up beside the car, keeping pace effortlessly, and this time, she reaches out and starts trying to open the locked car doors.
Trying to get in.
Trying to physically open the doors while running alongside a speeding truck? Can you imagine seeing a hand grabbing at your door handle?
That's escalation. This fits a pattern you often hear about. Challenging or testing the supernatural often seems to provoke a stronger, more aggressive response. It's like they disrespected a boundary by coming back.
They definitely felt like they'd made a huge mistake. Kuhn not just reacted, he floored it. Absolutely gunned the engine. He said he hit speeds of like 120, maybe even 150 kilometers per hour.
On a narrow rural road. That's incredibly dangerous in itself.
Totally reckless, born out of pure terror. And inside the truck, his friends just lost it. All 5 of them started, like, wailing, crying out loud, pressing their hands together in prayer, begging for it to stop, shouting vows like, we'll never do this again, we'll never test things like this.
Utter panic and regret.
Yeah, and in that chaos, Kunat remembers the prayer again. He yells at them, chant it piso, louder.
Back to the mantra.
And they do, all of them chanting again, even more fervently this time. And it worked again. Same result. She started to slow down, then just stood still by the roadside as they sped away.
Twice, the chanting seemed to provide protection or repel her. Remarkable consistency.
It really is. So they're driving on, hearts pounding, silence in the car now, except for maybe crying or ragged breathing. And then Kunat sees something up ahead on the left. A temple.
A temple. Okay, sign of sanctuary.
But here's the thing. He said he was absolutely certain he hadn't seen that temple at all the night before, or even earlier that same night on the way back to the spot. It just appeared.
That is strange. Why would it suddenly be visible? Or why hadn't they noticed it before? Was it hidden somehow? Or were they just not able to perceive it during the loop or the intense fear?
Who knows? But seeing it felt like a miracle. They immediately decided, we're going in there. They turned into the temple grounds.
Seeking refuge. Makes sense.
It was late, remember, nearly 11 p.m. So as their truck pulls in, an abbot comes out of his kuti, that's like the monk's little house or living quarters. He comes out to see what the commotion is.
Right.
Kunat, completely shaken up, just spills everything, tells the abbot the whole story. The first night, the loop, the pounding, and then their, stupid decision to test it on the second night.
Laid it all bare.
Yeah. And the abbot listened. Then he gave them a stern talking to. Basically told them off for messing with things they shouldn't, for being disrespectful and trying to provoke the unseen. He actually said they deserved what happened to them.
Harsh, but from a certain perspective, understandable. That idea of respecting boundaries, not tempting fate or spirits, is very strong. His words really emphasize that local belief system.
Definitely a don't poke the bear kind of message, but even though he scolded them, he saw how genuinely terrified they were. So he agreed to help them, cleanse themselves or find some peace, but only if they promised, absolutely promised, never to do anything like that again.
Condition for help.
They promised, of course. So the abbot performed a ceremony called Bangsakun Pen.
Ah, yes. Often done for the dead, but also used for warding off bad luck or cleansing negative influences. Involves covering with a white cloth, chanting.
That's the one. He did that for all of them. And then he told them they needed to stay there, inside the temple's main chapel, the safest place, until sunrise.
A night in sanctuary.
A night in sanctuary. They slept there, finally feeling some measure of safety.
So the immediate ordeal was over.
Yeah.
But the effects, they often linger, don't they?
They really did. The next morning they drove home from the temple, but things were not okay. Not for everyone.
How so?
3 of Kunat's friends, out of the 6 who were with him, they started showing signs of severe mental distress not long after.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. Talking to themselves, laughing inappropriately, alone, just not right. Their families got really worried, eventually sought psychiatric help for them.
Understandable. Trauma can manifest in many ways.
But the tragic part is, even now, years later, Kunat said those 3 friends haven't fully recovered. Despite treatment, the experience just broke something, it seems.
That's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
A permanent psychological scar from those 2 nights.
It really is. And Kunat himself, he wasn't entirely spared either. He didn't have the same breakdown. But he says ever since then, he constantly feels like someone is following him.
Always watching.
Always watching. Like a presence is just there all the time. It's a feeling he can't shake.
A constant lingering reminder.
Yeah. And the whole experience just traumatized him so deeply. He absolutely refuses to drive at night anymore, won't do it. And he never, ever jokes about ghosts or spirits or anything unseen. He learned his lesson, he said. A permanent, terrifying lesson.
Wow. What a powerful and ultimately tragic story. When you unpack it, it really hits home how crossing certain lines, especially cultural or spiritual ones, can have profound, devastating consequences, at least within that belief system. It wasn't just a spooky encounter. It was a transgression that seemed to invite lasting trauma.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It forces you to consider how much our perception of reality and even our mental well-being can be shaped by these deeply held cultural narratives, these warnings about the unseen world. When they defied the local lore, they seemed to internalize its consequences.
So what can we take away from this incredible, chilling story from Kun Nat and his friends? It's a stark reminder, isn't it? That maybe some ordinary-looking roads aren't so ordinary, that mysteries can lurk, especially where tragedy has struck.
Definitely. You have the tragic past, the, arguably reckless curiosity, and these encounters that left truly irreversible marks.
It really leaves you wondering, are there places where the past doesn't just fade away? Where it lingers almost, waiting for someone to acknowledge it, maybe just by speaking its name out loud on a dark night?
It certainly makes you ponder the thin veil we sometimes perceive between our world and, well, whatever might lie beyond it, and how our own actions might affect that veil.
A truly unsettling account from Suphan Buri. Thank you for joining us as we shared this listener's experience. We hope it gave you something to think about.
Indeed.
If you found this story compelling, or if you have experiences of your own, we'd appreciate it if you'd like this recording, share it, and maybe subscribe to our channel, Horror Docs, for more stories like this.
It helps us bring more of these accounts to light.
Absolutely. Until next time, stay curious. But maybe, just maybe, be a little cautious on those dark roads.